let's talk about independence. Playing the drums is all about coordination. It's about each limb being independent of each other. When you practice grooves, you are practicing independence. So you are basically always practicing this on your drums. The ultimate goal is to be as free as possible on the kit. A good way of taking independence to the next level is to practice linear drumming. Linear drumming is when none of your limbs are playing at the same time. We have already worked with some linear concepts through the drumming exercises in this course, so you should be familiar with the concept. There are literally a ton of different hand and foot combinations, and this includes odd note groupings. Search for this concept on YouTube, or do what you should have done yesterday: get a Drumeo Edge membership at once. My favorite concept is linear drumming and note groupings. It's amazing, especially the odd note groupings. You can use both single and double kick pedal for the hand and foot combinations. You can use this in most genres of music, but they are most frequently used in rock music and gospel, the so-called gospel chops. A good way of working with this concept is to check out Gary Chaffee's linear drumming concepts. There are several books on the subject, but I recommend just taking a look at some of the many YouTube videos you can find on this subject. Learn how to build different combinations with different note groupings, and your drumming life will never be the same. Dynamic independence is about being able to play loud with one or two limbs and keep the volume down with the others. For instance, play loud on the ride and softer on the kick and snare, typical in jazz music, or play with lots of power on the kick and snare and a softer hi-hat as in R&B, trap and hip-hop music. The concept of unison dependence. All limbs are playing exactly the same. They have to be placed perfectly on top of each other to avoid unwanted flaps. When you are building, that's a concept that is very common in worship music, you are playing with unison dependence. Hard dance is an excellent genre to practice to build up unison dependence, and it gives you a library of different ways to build. To practice all the different permutations of 16 notes with some of the possible hi-hat patterns helps building independence between hands and feet as well, the so-called fatbacks. This is an awesome tool to learn how to play different grooves put into a system, and if you apply the different hi-hat patterns, then you will really take it up a notch. Move your hi-hat hand to the right and add your left foot as well, and you will be practicing 4-limbed independence and developing your library at the same time. So, what about developing musicality, ear training? Playing pocket, drumming for the song, and playing for the room are all important musical concepts we have already covered. Being musical or playing well musically has a lot to do with feeling. This cannot be taught as a theoretical thing, and you can learn to hear if the feel of the song is straight swung or somewhere in between, but you still have to feel the music when you play. And this is what playing for the music is about. Dynamics is a very important musical concept. Learn how to play different parts of the song at different volumes and shape your drumming to match the lyrics and the shape of the song. Sometimes play nothing. When you are in a build section, make sure you don't peak too early or too late. Remember that you are leading people in worship with your drumming, and dynamics is an important tool. Musicality is developed over time, and it comes with experience. Listen to music, go to concerts, clinics and watch videos, play with others, play along to music and play-alongs. Developing your ears will also help you to make better musical decisions, and other musicians will love you for it. Musicality also has to do with your sound on the drums and how you are tuning your drums as well. So we're going to talk about sound. We're going to speak about this concept both in regard to the prophetic and playing well musically. Sound is more about how you play it than what you play, and orchestration is very important when it comes to sound. And orchestration simply means where you are placing the strokes on your kit. So texture is also a concept that creates different sounds. Ghost notes are a great way to add layers and texture to a groove. Dynamics is about being able to play both loudly and at low volumes, but also to be able to play some strokes louder, like rim shots on the snare, and soft like ghost notes and cross sticks on the snare. These are different ways to create different sounds and dynamics. Sound also has to do with style. Some drummers are recognized by their sound, either because of the way they play, their feeling, types of grooves, licks, chops, and how they orchestrate what they play. Sound is also about the different sound sources you use, and the physical kit, of course, the type of drums, and I don't mean the brand. And if you use different percussion instruments, are you using an acoustic kit or a digital kit, or a mix of those two? If you are using a digital kit, adding a snare and ride helps, and some percussion instruments as well, maybe even an acoustic floor tom. Sound is personal, it's a part of the musical journey of being a drummer, so work on developing that unique sound of yours, and it will for sure come out in your prophetic playing as well. We will talk some about tuning. How your kit is tuned will affect your sound and the music as well. I guess you have tried to play on a really poorly tuned kit and how it just affects the overall sound and the joy of playing as well. The feeling is just so different when you play on an awesome sounding drum kit. Tuning is a big part of drumming as practicing to become a good drummer, so invest time in learning how to tune a drum kit. It is a skill that is developed over time. It is all about ears and figuring out what sounds good and fits with your personal preferences. They say tuning is not rocket science and that the principle is easy. I beg to differ. I've never been good at tuning drums, but in my defense, I have never really practiced it either. I only have a digital kit at home. That is what I practice on. That means that I don't have many opportunities to practice tuning. I know how it works in theory, I watch many tuning videos online, and so can you, but you have to practice it. My tuning skills are improving slowly, but one of the worship leaders I played with, she used to tune the kit for me for years. Honestly, I felt very embarrassed by this, but she's good at it and I wasn't, so I had to swallow my pride and get my priorities right. Better to seek help and have a good sounding kit than trying to tune it myself and being embarrassed even more with a bad sounding kit. But seriously, usually there is no one around to help you with the tuning, so you better learn it for yourself. Some drum heads reduce overtones better than others. I have recently discovered hydraulic drum heads and I love them. The drums are easier to tune and it's easier to control the overtones and sustain. The way the sound engineer brings out the sound of the drums is important as well. The best thing is if you as a drummer know how you want your drums to sound and try to explain it to the engineer, the two of you working together. Experiment with what you like. There are some principles that work well in regard to the style you play, and this will often determine how high or low you pitch your toms, for instance. For worship drumming, I recommend to tune the toms pretty low, especially the floor tom, but it's a matter of preference, the setting, and the room as well. I really believe deep, dark toms give the best breakthrough in the spiritual realm. So, at last, different styles of music. It's about learning to play different grooves and feels that are typical in different styles of music. Contemporary Christian music is mostly based on common rock and pop beats, and that includes common beats in country pop as well. The 7 grooves are all based on basic rock and pop grooves, and they are a great place to start. Practicing different rock grooves is the best place to start if you are a beginner. Country pop songs are also super fun to play along to, and the grooves are the same, but country pop and rock might be played at different volumes, so this is a good practice. Typical for contemporary worship are tom-based grooves and different tom patterns, and they can be a challenge to learn if you are a beginner. So spend a lot of time listening to and practicing to worship music. You will find cool tom patterns in rock and indie music as well, so you can look for more inspiration there. Learning to play grooves on the toms will help your independence, creativity, and give you a bigger library as well. You should want to be as versatile as possible, even if your ambition is just playing in church on Sundays. You may get asked to play a shuffle beat, a train beat, swing jazz, bossa nova, and even reggae, and you want to be able to nail the basics at least. The best way to actually practice all the concepts we have talked about is to practice different styles of music. Different styles of music will challenge you in different areas, and I will try to make a summary. So I've heard drummers say that this is not really practicing to songs. It is more like playing music. As I said when I shared the story about how I have developed as a drummer, I will say that on the contrary, this is a very good way to learn. But of course, to become a well-rounded drummer, it is important to work on these other areas as well if you can. Jazz and Latin are great styles to practice for developing independence. Learn to play basic shuffle grooves. You will find shuffle in rock, blues and country music, and it's very important groove and feeling to learn, so make sure to spend a lot of time with this. Hip-hop, neo-funk, pop, trap and R&B music, playing 16th notes on the hi-hat with one hand, that helps develop technique on the hi-hat, and these grooves are frequently used in hip-hop, pop and trap music. These grooves will come very handy in your library for starters, but they will also help you to develop your hi-hat technique, consistency and endurance. In worship music, you have the classic build-up in most songs these days. And these builders are sometimes very similar to the so-called risers in EDM music. Do you want to practice your single stroke rolls in different note values? You should. This can be very tedious, but not if you practice it to music. And risers and fills in dance music like techno, trance, big room and house are an awesome way to practice this and have fun at the same time. Funk and breakbeats are great for developing your ghost notes and overall feel. Drum and bass beats are similar, and these will really help you to practice your speed. Add in some punk grooves as well and try to build up speed over time. Your bass drum foot will get a good workout and you will develop better foot technique as well. Do you want to learn to play with a double bass pedal? Heavy metal is of course the best music to play along to and to get inspiration from. There are some great Christian heavy metal bands to check out, so check out the reference sheet for that. Check out www.metalforjesus.org for updated info on this. You can definitely use a double pedal in some of the modern gospel music as well to add some 32 notes in with the kick. And of course you can play the famous gospel chops, hand and foot combinations both with a single and a double pedal. Blast beats in heavy metal will help you practice unison dependence when 3 or 4 limbs play the same. It is really necessary to practice unison dependence to sound good and avoid unwanted flams. These beats are also good for builds, fills and grooves even in a slower tempo, so work on these concepts at least. So what about practice plans and routines? How much should I practice? My answer is, how good do you want to get? I recommend that if it is possible for you, try to practice at least 1 hour each day, 6 days a week. This is better than 3-4 hours once a week. I don't need the licks, you say, but why practice the hard stuff? You don't need to. But the more stuff you can play on the drums, the more fun you'll have and you'll become more confident. The more advanced stuff you learn, the more headroom you will get. And this will actually make the simple things that you play sound much better. Start by focusing on the most important things. Set realistic goals. Ask yourself, where do I want to be in 6 months? What do I want to be able to play? Stay focused when you practice. Turn off your phone to avoid distractions. Take short breaks when you need to. Make sure that you practice all these 3 areas equally. And musical drumming, play along to songs, listen to music, listen to other drummers, develop your ears, develop pockets, develop dynamics. Technical drumming, theory, technique, rudiments, independence. This will help you in so many ways. And finally, building your library. Learning new styles, fills and groups will give you a bigger toolbox and expand your knowledge. To be a well-rounded drummer, you need to be able to play many different styles of music, and although you may be only a worship drummer, this will help in your worship playing as well. Try to balance the time you use in these 3 areas during your practice time. Make a practice plan if you want to. Don't be angry when you don't get it. Come back to it the day after and it will already sound better. Keep coming back to it and each time you will have improved. Learning to play the drums takes time, so please be patient. Good luck and enjoy and be blessed in your journey as a drummer.